Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The CDL is finally back in business, but that does not mean a good day for the league in general. Carolina Royal Ravens confirming yesterday their Charlotte event will not be going ahead as we rumoured. They seem to have spent all their money on the new facility for the boys, and therefore it's going to be in California, surprisingly, not Ohio as might have been presumed, but yet another year with another tournament with no live audience in attendance. What is happening to this league? Is it just time to call it a day? Very much on Twitter, your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. But first of all, the Minnesota Rokkr finally confirm what their new roster is going to be. They could have had Illy instead of Gunless. That was the rumour. He, of course, is now fully released by the Seattle Surge. But no, Gunless there instead. This is great to see Gunless back in the league, to be honest. I will say Gunless is one of my absolute favourite players to watch when he was in his prime, Infinite Warfare, World War II, even Black Ops 4. But ever since then, certainly in the Vanguard, when he had the illness, he had to step away from the team. Spark came in. They won that crazy event with the Volcanig, as people sometimes call it, back at Major 2 2022. Then when Gunless came back, it was never quite the same, as Gunless says. Feels good to be back. So there was a time where Gunless was considered at some point during the regular season the best player in the world a few years ago. He's been grinding down in challenges, as he says, trying to become a better person, better teammate, and look, he's obviously a talented player. Is he going to be the same player that he has been when he was in the league before? That's a question mark. And I think from my side, I do have to question the efficacy of a Gunless accuracy AR duo here in the year 2024. But if Gunless can slay as he needs to, then sure. Will he do a better job than Big Wake? You know, I'd say probably yes. I think that Awakening was underperforming what was expected of him, so bringing Gunless in to do the job makes a bit of sense. I don't think they've technically released Awakening either, so I think he's still there on the bench if they were to require him to come back in, but given the way that he was brought in to slay and didn't, you've got to think that Gunless should do a better job there, because I think accuracy played really well at the start of the season. I was never really expecting that to be maintained, and accuracy's numbers have now kind of fallen off to levels that are more in line with what you might have expected. So they are going to need a slaying force. Gunless can probably improve within that role. The question to me is, though, that change is perfectly fine, understandable, reasonable. Yes, questions on how good Gunless will be, but it makes sense to change out Awakening given the situation. What surprised me, though, was getting rid of Vivid and bringing Stanley back in. Yes, accuracy has played with Stanley before, and maybe he believes that he's a player that he can get something more out of. But, you know, with Standy, in the same way in some ways with Vivid and with Asim, players that have gone through the ringer of so many different teams over the last few years for whatever reason, and the thing with Standy tends to be that when teams drop him, they tend to improve. So maybe that's the master plan here for the Minnesota Rokkr. They might make another change before the end of the season. But, you know, to me, getting rid of Vivid, bringing in Standy from that SMG side, I'm not really sure that makes that much sense to me, right? Like, Lins and Vivid seem to work reasonably well together. Vivid brought the pace, Lins brought the slaying at the start of the season. Standy is, you know, he's not a slow SMG, but he's not exactly especially fast. Not like Vivid is. So I do have my questions as to how the Standy, Lins, AR, SMG duo is going to work, especially with accuracy and Gunless. That's also a pretty slow pairing. So I think Minnesota Rokkr, again, doesn't seem to matter who coaches the team, although maybe Looney is a common trend at this point because Brian Sen, of course, is gone now to the Ravens. Doesn't seem to matter what year you live in. Minnesota Rokkr and forming the slowest possible COD team is just what they love to do. But to be fair, Stanley's first into Rokkr, of course, during the Cold War days, right? But yeah, he had a great debut series. He had loads of series wins in his rookie season, given that he came in halfway through the year, and then won his second Pro LAN, of course, which was at the event at the end of the season at Major 5, where they made that rather remarkable reverse sweep happen. So yeah, 2/4, as it were, of Cold War Rokkr officially back in business now. But there is a good argument to say, should there have been others given a better opportunity, right? Even Weeman here has been absolutely frying over in European challenges, and I think that Weeman, given the way that he's played, probably is deserving of a spot if there wasn't, you know, visa complications to account for. But unfortunately there is. But as he says, you know, reuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, whatever they say. So basically saying, yeah, they're bringing back the same old guys to the league again and again and again, and it's not going to work out well for these guys. We are going to see, however, an important matchup today with this Rokkr team making its debut. That's going to be a bit of a hard time, but they do play on the 21st of April, the Boston Breach, and this to me is a massively exciting one. We know that Gunless and Beans, they had a big back and forth about this stuff, you know, May last year, when there was big beef and drama between these two guys, and now they're actually going to play against each other in the very short order, both being back in the league. So massively excited for that. But let's dive into this kind of CDL update stuff right here. So here's Scump dropping 55 kills, absolutely frying as an attach says, still to be top 5 in the league. You think this is glazing, or you think this could well be accurate? Because I think when Scump retired, he was still a top 10 player. Top 5 is... there's a lot of good players in the league, you know what I mean? Like, you think, oh, Scump, so good, top 5, and you think, sure. But then you actually look through the players list and you think, damn, like, Scump would have to be absolutely cooking to be top 5 still. But I think it's possible. And yeah, Scump, here we are on Vista Harp, of course, a map that is going to be in the rotation in the very near future. But the map set will not be played in Charlotte for Major 4. Now, this was a rumour going back, you know, I've heard this now for, I want to say, almost 3 months or so. There were rumours that, for whatever reason, the Ravens had bottled it. And I just don't understand. The frustrating thing for me is, and we don't really know if there were other organisations that tried to host an event, because Boston and Toronto, they did it last year, they wanted to do it again, they both do fantastic jobs. The other organisations, like this year Miami stepped in to host one, and anyone that went to that Miami event will tell you that, at least compared to other events, there weren't much happening, really. It wasn't especially well executed compared to many others. And then Ravens, they wanted to host one. Now, they hosted events as London way back in 2020 when the CDL was just kicking around. They were substantially worse than the previous CWL London, but they were decent events nonetheless. I think the Gfinity ran on behalf of the Royal Ravens at the time. But here we are a few years later. They've changed their city to, you know, North Carolina, but Charlotte effectively. And it's still the same old crap, innit? Let's be real. Because they announced yesterday, we regret to announce that due to a range of factors, we will not be hosting Major 4 this season. So they don't say any of the factors. I don't know what the speculation is and what the factors are. Who even cares at this point? But it's just super frustrating when an organisation says they're going to host one and then doesn't, because it puts everyone in a bad spot, feels bad for everybody. And maybe there were no other organisations that wanted to do it. But the annoying thing is that, let's say there were no other orgs that wanted to do it. OpTic would have probably said, yeah, we'll host it at Esports Stadium Arlington, right? And sure, Champs is also going to be in Texas, we think. But if the Ravens had just not pretended that they were going to be able to do it, which clearly they aren't, then OpTic could have just done one. I mean, you've got to think that would have been on the cards, no? For them just to host one in Texas instead. So it's deeply frustrating, of course. We know how many of you are looking forward to our event, and we hope to put on a show in our hometown that fans can be proud of in the future. So that's just a BS statement. I don't imagine they're ever going to be going back there. There is, I think, something in North Carolina when if you put on events like this, they give you like a 50% tax rebate or something, which is maybe one of the reasons why they're even based there in the first place. But even with that, it clearly wasn't enough. So the CDL then had to respond to this, and I kind of, well, it's difficult, isn't it? I feel bad in some regard for some of the CDL guys that have to deal with the repercussions here, but like, we've seen these circumstances arrive before, and the same thing happened for the New York event, I guess, a couple of years ago as well, when they had to replace it with an alternative. But it just goes to show you that the decision makers on the league side and also from some of these teams are just not doing an especially good job, and it's just a terrible look for the league, right? A league that is in its, what, 5th season now, a league that is meant to be trending in the upward direction, although everybody knows that's actually not the case. But instead, I thought this was going to be in Ohio, right? Because usually they'll go to Columbus, Ohio and run the event there instead with no audience. But no, it's actually going to be in Burbank, California, which is kind of a new one, to be fair. Pretty interesting stuff. Wonder what the kind of, the match time starting points will be. But yes, it will be on LAN, so at least it's LAN, I guess, if we want to take that as a positive. But with no live audience in attendance. So this is just such a frustrating one, especially because it's the final event before the World Championship. There will be teams that qualify or fail to qualify for the World Championship at this event. There are so many points on the line for the majors, 100 points for the winner, that it will be possible for probably 11 teams to still make champs. Now, it will be implausible for many teams to make champs, but it will be possible, and it's just such an important event. And I was really hoping actually that we would get Ravens, Carolina in front of the home crowd, winning an important series, qualifying for the World Championship. I think that would have been a great storyline. That ain't going to happen because it's going to be no audience, just like what happened in the previous year's tournament when this has happened before. One of the positives, however, is that after Major 3 in Toronto, they will actually have another week break, because initially it was Major 3 and then straight into the Major 4 qualifiers. Bang, 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 like no breaks at all, which is bad for teams trying to make moves and is bad for maybe making some map set changes possibly. So this is better, and therefore they're going to run the event the 27th to the 30th of June in Burbank, California, and there's challenger stuff as well. Now, what I'd love to see actually is to make this a pro-am event, right? Because you know, that way no fans is somewhat acceptable, because it's just such a frustrating thing that it's happened again. Am I surprised? You know, at this point, I'm past being surprised about stuff like this. But I would say that if they were to convert it to like a Pro-Am event, like they have done, let's say, Raleigh at the start of last year, or even the actual Pro-Am during Vanguard, that was a great tournament format, and is something they absolutely could do in the circumstances with, I imagine, the space that they have, given that Challenges is going on as well. I'm sure they could do this, but, you know, Merc says the last major before champs, not sure how you'd pull that off, and maybe there's some truth to that, because, you know, you want to make sure that they can qualify through with the amount of points that are being brought to the table, but I don't know, they could find a way to make it work if they wanted to, I think, but they probably don't want to. Now, LA Gorilla says, see you in LA for Major 4, and it's like, well, you realise we're not going to this one, right? I mean, sure, you might be there, but we're not invited, brother, as Jake L says to replies, so you will definitely not be seeing us in LA, at least the fans for the event.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? Not great. They said, we regret to announce that due to a range of factors, we will not be hosting Major 4. We know how many of you are looking forward to our event, and we hope to put on a show in our hometown that fans can be proud of in the future. Well, will they ever get that chance is the question. That's not ideal, Zinni.
I mean, there's really nothing we can do.
We might have to do it from there.
What?
I mean, dude, what do you mean? We might have to do it.
Are you crazy?
Am I crazy? Are you crazy? We might have to.
You're out of your mind. You are literally out of your mind.
All right, then I'll do it alone. That's really not great.
Hey, what are you guys tweaking about? What happened?
We can't really discuss it.
We cannot discuss it. Yes, we cannot. Well, with you, we can. We can text it to you.
Hey, what happened? You guys sound like you're tweaking. Is it okay?
I am tweaking. Yes, we are both. Tweaking.
I'm not tweaking like he's tweaking.
I'm super tweaking.
You are a tweaker.
So Scump obviously frustrated about the situation as well, and look, again, he doesn't sound especially surprised, and neither am I, because it's frustrating as it is, but this is the world we live in. I'm hoping that we get back to a world where one day we can have OpTic Gaming and FaZe Clan and all those other great, it's not like OpTic Texas and Atlanta FaZe are bad, but it was better back in the day. I think we'll get back to that point at some point, and there's just some discussion, because this weekend is a rather important matchup on the Sunday, April the 14th. We have FaZe versus OpTic. Yet again, this time, of course, it's happening online. These are, by the way, the games on the weekend. So that is the game on Sunday. We'll discuss them as the weekend progresses. But again, it's only 2 games today on the Friday. But nonetheless, rather interesting games. FaZe versus Rokkr should be a bloodbath, but we shall see how Rokkr fare. As I said before, a baptism of fire coming against FaZe in your first series as a new team, but we'll see how they get on, of course. But assuming that FaZe handle business, then it's Gorillas Legion. Can Gorillas actually do anything online? Because I don't have much faith, to be honest, that they can. Legion, I think, are a strong team. I think they're better than their placement, let's say, at the major showed. But yeah, 2 probably not massively entertaining series, so I'll probably prepare another topic for you guys this evening to discuss in addition to those games, and well, I'll share this for you guys right as we close out the video. Just wanted to quickly mention Fantasy still available for the last few hours before the matches start if you guys want to get involved. Rokkr themselves are doing their own fancy league here with lots of prizes to be won if you guys want to get involved in that one. But yeah, very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
On time, and in front.
Oh, man. Oh, wait.
Yup. Oh, Prad, where are you going, brother?
He's at dumpster.
Two kill.
DVD me.
I hope you DVD. Hoping you did. Nature executed me. Nature executed me. Oh my god.
I'm gonna lose it.